Second, resulted in the conviction on all counts just before Thanksgiving in Dallas of an organization called the Holy Land Foundation. In the course of that trial, the U.S. government introduced into evidence a 1991 memorandum, an internal memorandum designed to lay out the strategic vision of the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States. Helpfully, this memorandum listed scores of Muslim Brotherhood front organizations in the United States. Some of them are relatively familiar. The Islamic Society of North America, the Muslim Public Affairs Council, the Muslim Students Association, the Muslim American Society, the precursor to the Council on American Islamic Relations, known as the Islamic Association for Palestine, and on and on and on. But more importantly, that memorandum made very explicit what the mission of the Muslim Brotherhood in America is. It is, quote, to destroy Western civilization from within by its own miserable hand and that of the brothers, unquote. Fair warning, I would submit, as to what the proponents of Sharia soft or hard jihad, as they may prefer, have in mind. Beyond the Sharia finance and Sharia workplace, how about the Sharia consumer marketplace? Other accommodations are in evidence. For example, in Minnesota, a while back, an effort was made to insist that Muslim cab drivers did not need to pick up people who had alcohol on their person or who might be blind and have seen eye dogs. Imagine that. Discriminating on the basis of somebody having to rely upon a dog to get around, or choosing, as Americans are entitled to do, to carry alcohol. In the UK, and in many cases, what I'm describing here may sound extreme, may sound even preposterous. But if you want to see where this leads, look no further than Great Britain, to say nothing of the continent of Europe, where Western nations are much further along on the same trajectory. But the point is, it is the same trajectory. In the UK, for example, you now have quite frequently people refusing to handle in consumer outlets alcohol or pork or even Christian books. In some cases, they're now insisting that companies like Tesco, a large supermarket chain, not even sell those products, let alone oblige their Muslim employees to have to sully themselves by touching them. What this amounts to, folks, is separate but unequal treatment, not some kind of civil right of the kind that we have tried very hard to address since the 1960s. Separate but equal. Separate but unequal is the inherent, unalterable character of Sharia. Because after all, it is about imposing the will of the minority on the majority. It is about requiring all to submit, the literal translation of Islam, to this program. Finally, Sharia is, as I have suggested, the justification for terror. To the extent that we are, through our accommodations, let alone through our financing, legitimating Sharia, you can be sure you are only reinforcing behavior that has another implication for those of you particularly who have global operations. You are probably right now paying good money, working contingency plans, contemplating how to adjust your operations in the face of terror, kidnapping, hostage-taking of other kinds, Mumbai kinds of problems, right? If you are underwriting this kind of activity, let alone establishing through your practices that it is a perfectly legitimate thing to be seeking to impose Shariah, you are absolutely condemning you, your company interests, and frankly the rest of us, to an only more serious problem down the road. The good news is there is a pushback that is beginning against this. There is a growing awareness of what Shariah is and what it portends. In Britain, as I say, where this is metastasized quite far, there will be on the 10th of December a debate in the House of Commons as a result of something called the One for All campaign, which will propound a very simple idea, a prohibition on Sharia courts and religious tribunals from operating either within or outside the legal system of the UK. This might seem like a fairly straightforward proposition. And yet the Labour government of the United Kingdom has accommodated already the institution of the last count of, I think, 5 Sharia courts, operating in parallel and outside the court system of English common law, except that arrangements have been made in such cases where rulings are handed down by Sharia judges, they can be enforced in the English court system. Here in the United States, we at the Center for Security Policy have joined forces with a number of other organizations